I am now going to turn over to the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Chair Bigger. We're glad you're here today. We'll go ahead and jump into the Finance Committee. Information number one is the annual higher education condition report, and we have Mr. Nick Fuller. He'll provide background on this item.
Good morning, everyone. Agenda item number one is the financial conditions report. This describes the financial conditions of public institutions of higher ed across the state of Arkansas and challenges experienced by those public institutions. It addresses productivity-based funding, comparisons of faculty salaries, tuition fees, fund balances, scholarship expenditures, and athletic expenditures. I'm just going to hit a few highlighted reports or graphs from the report. The full report is in your agenda book. The first item is the comparison of faculty salaries. You'll see this is from 2021. The SREB data is still a bit older. We haven't had as much data information to be able to publish this with more recent. But as you can see on the 4-year side, Arkansas is next to last in the SREB region for average faculty salaries. And on the 2-year side, we are at the bottom within the region for average faculty salary. Next item, we'll talk about the change in university revenues over a 5-year period. On the revenue side for the universities, Arkansas is pretty much dead center compared to our peers in the region. On the 2-year side, we are the same way. The next item we'll talk about is tuition and fee revenues. And we have added around $35 million in the productivity funding formula over the past 7 years to institutions. But even with those efforts and trying to keep costs down, institutions have had to increase tuition fees to match inflation, other things going on throughout the country. For 2024, 4-year institutions increased their tuition an average of 4%. And 2-year institutions average 4.6%. The next slide does show the 1-year increase for each of the 4-year institutions. As you can see, the 5-year average increase for those is 2.5% over 5 years. Next one shows the 2-year institutions. And their 5-year average increase was 3.5%. Next item we want to show is a comparison of fund balances year over year. The industry standards for 4-year institutions that they should have a fund balance between 5 to 14% of their educational and general operating budgets. For 23-24, all but one of the institutions were above this. The prior year, I think there were 2. So the one other institution did bring theirs back up in the optimal range. And for 24, no 2-year institutions had a balance below. I think we all know which one was the one still low, but they are working their way back up, obviously. So they have made quite the strides in getting back on their feet from where they were. 2-year fund balances. Then addressing institutional scholarships, these are academic and performance-based scholarships. There's a limit of 20% of educational and general revenue that tuition institutions can spend on these scholarships. For 23-24, there were 20,502 scholarships awarded at 4-year institutions at $72 million compared to 19,950 in the previous year. And as a whole, scholarships were 8.6% of tuition and fee revenues for the year, where in 2023 it was 8.9. So that percentage is dropping, how much they're spending on scholarships. There's a chart of these showing out of the total $840 million in tuition and fee income, the 72.7 million were spent on scholarships. And the other item we want to discuss or briefly mention, we mentioned pretty much anytime we talk funding, is the capital needs on campuses. You know, we project $3.6 billion in deferred maintenance needs across all of the campuses, with almost $500 million of that classified as critical needs. And they're still yet to have a dedicated source of revenue for these, for any of the institutions. So our recommendations in the report are continue to work on refining the productivity model, making sure we're making the best use of those recommendations, and working with you all, our staff, the institutions, executive branch, and legislature to make sure we're aligning funding needs with the policies of the state. And that is agenda item number 1. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Nick. All right, so that was informational item number 1. We are going to go to information agenda item number 2. This is the maintenance report, begins on page 2-1 of the book. Go ahead, Mr. Bull.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is, according to coordinating board policy, we will present to you a report of all of the amounts that were transferred to plant funds in accordance with your policy for any new buildings that are issued bonds or loans for construction. Institutions that seek these feasibilities, like the one you will see in the next agenda item, it's going to have additional square footage. They have to set aside a certain percentage of funds to make sure maintenance of that facility is available. So that the capital needs that we mentioned in the last report, a lot of those are from buildings that were built prior to the implementation of this policy. So you see current rates that we request these set asides are $2.50 per square foot for E&G facilities and $1.25 square foot for auxiliary facilities. And that report is available in your agenda book.
All right, any questions on informational item number 2? All right, we'll go to an action item number 3. This is the economic feasibility for North Arkansas College, and it begins on page 3-1.
Thank you. This item is going to be for a bond issue for $2.25 million for North Arkansas College. The term of up to 20 years at a rate of approximately 5%. This will be used for educational and general purposes with funding coming from millage revenue the institution generates from their area. Proceeds will be used for the construction of a new Center for Robotics and Manufacturing Innovation. And in accordance with that board policy we just reviewed, they will be setting aside $50,000 per year for the building maintenance fund on the new construction. Representatives from the institution are here if you have any questions on the project.
Good morning. I'm Richard Stipe, Chief Financial Officer at North Arkansas College.
Good morning. Would you mind kind of walking us through a little bit about the new Center for Robotics and Manufacturing Innovation and how that project kind of came about, if it's industry led and what's going to be facilities going to be housing?
The vision for the Center for Robotics and Manufacturing Innovation actually started several years ago, even under a previous administration, working with local industry partners to try to improve pathways for students around our region, not only to have newer opportunities in robotics and industrial type programs, but also to increase our ability to partner with our industry partners in the area and work with them on advancing those kinds of technologies and to make those pathways more attractive to students. We found that a lot of students simply were not choosing either a traditional path or a career technical education path. And so we're trying to really bring both sides of that along. This facility came about through funding from the state, as well as an EDA grant, Federal Economic Development Grant, $2 million. And then the college has partnered with that, with the bond funding to make the facility possible. And construction is already underway on it, expect to be finished in June.
On the bond issue, do you have you already secured that with the bank? Because I saw that at 5%. That looks.
That's just an estimate. So we won't have the actual rates till they go to market with it. We hope to be possibly a little under that, but rates are up lately. So yes.
Any other questions?
All right, no more questions. All right, this was action agenda item number 3, economic feasibility for North Arkansas College. Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board approval for the economic feasibility for North Arkansas College?
Also move.
Thank you. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the finance committee?
Before you adjourn, can I ask one question? Nick here. Did I read that right a moment ago that our campus facilities are worth 5.4 billion? And we have 3.6
Estimated, yes, sir.
3.6 billion in deferred maintenance?
Yes, sir.
That seems to be a huge amount of deferred maintenance.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it is a definite issue on the
When we
campuses.
require these dollar amounts to maintain the buildings,
Well, and you have to remember that that board policy to require that did not start till like 2010. So any buildings older than that didn't have the requirement to set aside those funds.
I remember it started, yeah.
So, and that's where, older buildings are definitely going to have a lot more of that deferred maintenance anyway.
But if we're not careful, the maintenance is going pretty quickly past the value.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Get the motion.
I did not. All right. So finance committee will adjourn. Do I hear a motion to officially adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bishop.